The SBA has released the 3508S form, which is new. This was released last week. The 3508S form is now available for borrowers who have PPP loans under $50,000. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If that sounds interesting to you, please stay tuned. We're going to get into it. We're actually going to do a comparison side by side of the 3508S form and the 3508EZ form, which is the one that we thought was easier before, but now we're going to dig into this new form that's even shorter. So if that sounds interesting to you, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel, give it a thumbs up if this is helpful, and please remember that you can always put questions below. I go through and read all the comments. All right, well, thank you for being here. This 3508S form is new. It just came out last week. Let's see, like October, I think 7th or 8th is when it was posted on the SBA website. But now we are able to look it over and talk about what are the differences between the two forms, what you still need to do. Is this blanket forgiveness? Is it not? Well, I'll go ahead and just say no, it's not blanket forgiveness. However, there are some cool things that have come out with the 3508S form, and I'm going to go over them with you. So the very first thing is that who can use this 3508S form? Any borrower that has a PPP loan less than $50,000, as long as you're not affiliated with a group of businesses that would have a loan of $2 million or more. As long as you are just a standalone business and you have a loan of $50,000 or less, you can use the 3508S form and really do it. There's no reason not to. If you have a loan that small, you need to be using this form because it does a number of things for you. So the first thing that it does is that it simplifies the process. So it's a one-page form. There's a little bit, we're going to look at it in a second. There's a little bit to fill out up at the top, and then it's certifications, okay? The second thing that it does is that it removes the requirement for you to be concerned about calculating salaries and wage reductions and FTE reductions. So if you've been worried about the FTE calculation and you have a loan under $50,000, you don't have to worry about that anymore. So they're kind of extending safe harbor over anybody who has $50,000 or less. So if you did have to let some people go and you were worried you were going to have to reduce your forgiveness because of that, you now don't have to be worried about that. Now, we still need to spend the money on eligible payroll costs. That has not changed. If you can't come up with spending your full loan amount with legitimate PPP eligible expenses, then this does not give you blanket forgiveness over all of your funds, okay? So I want to make that really clear. This is not blanket forgiveness, but it is kind of a blanket safe harbor for some of you, okay? If you did have to reduce your employees' salaries and wages, or if you did lose an FTE or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it is, you do not have to you do not have to worry about that. You don't have to certify to it. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is just certify that you've spent the money on the correct things, okay? And we're going to get into the certifications in a moment. So really the last thing I want to bring up before we hop into the forms and look at them is that we don't put any numbers in the forms directly of exactly how much payroll costs, exactly how much rent, exactly how much or mortgage interest. We're not putting those numbers in. However, you still do have to provide documentation supporting how you spent your loan. Okay, so the documentation requirements are essentially the exact same as the EZ form. You still have to provide third-party payroll reports or bank statements. You still have to provide tax forms if it's not covered by your third-party payroll provider. You're still going to have to provide support for health insurance or any other type of payroll costs that you're trying to claim. You still have to provide all that stuff. Still have to provide a lease statement if you're trying to get coverage for rent. So all of that is the same, but you do not have to provide any support for an FTE calculation or salary and wage reduction because that's a non-issue now. Okay, so that's the only difference in documentation between the two. Okay, well, we're going to hop into a screen share where I'm going to walk through the differences between the two forms right now. All right, so here we are looking at the two applications, the 3508EZ and the 3508S. And I wanted to show just the differences between the two because obviously the easy form came out first and it is shortened from the full length 3508 form. But what we want to look at is really what has been removed from the easy form to the S, because really anybody who can apply for the S was probably looking at the 3508 EZ form as the form that they were probably going to use. So many people who thought they were going to use the EZ will now be able to use the S form. So that's why I'm comparing these two forms rather than going into the full 3508 form, because that is just going to be more detailed, and most of these people that were using the S form just really would never have even considered that as an option to begin with. So one of the big things that I wanted to do is just look at the form differences actually, so we can just highlight what is different between these two. So I wanted to kind of point this out to you. The first thing I want to do is go ahead and show you. So again, this is the S form, this is the new one, and then this is the EZ form. So we know what we're looking at here. All right, so this top portion is going to be the same for both forms up to this point, okay, up to here. This is all the same. All right, so if you had already filled this out and you were ready, you would be able to see that those are exactly the same. However, once you get to this payroll schedule all the way down to the forgiveness amount total, all of this is not included on the new S form. This is the actual calculation of the payroll costs and everything. You do not have to prove that out on the 3508 S form. Now, just because you don't prove it out doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing the calculation for yourself to make sure that you can honestly certify that you spent the money on the correct things. So you'll see that the next item that they've asked for here is the forgiveness amount, and that would be the same as what you would have filled out down here on line 8 of the EZ form, okay? So again, we're crossing out essentially this whole section from payroll schedule to line 7. And then, so you'll put in your PPP loan amount, let's say it was $20,000 even, and you believe that you have all the supporting documentation to prove out your $20,000, you would put in your $20,000 here. And then what happens is then you have to certify. So what they're asking you to do is they're saying the dollar amount that you are requesting for forgiveness does not exceed the principal amount, and it was used for all of the eligible things. So this part right here, it does not exceed the principal amount. This is a new little addition they put in because down here, they have a test to make sure that you're not asking for more than what the PPP loan amount is. But then all of these documents and these points are exactly the same as some of the certifications on this other page. So if we scroll down here, we're going to look at the certifications. And again, all of this is in one page, so they keep trying to simplify it, hoping that it's going to help people out. So they've essentially taken the form and the certifications page and put it all into one, basically a one-page application. Now it does have a second page down here, which all of the applications do, that talk about demographics, but this is an optional piece. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. So if we're comparing again, these bullet points are the same as what is here. All right. And then these are the same. I understand. Now, one of the big differences is that on the EZ form, you have to certify to make sure that you did not reduce any salaries or wages by more than 25%. And we talked about this in the intro, but because they are basically doing away with that requirement for the S form, they're basically giving kind of a blanket safe harbor for all of the people who are using the S form. You do not have to certify to this piece here. And you don't have to make a selection down here, which goes into the safe harbor options on the EZ form, okay? So really what I'm trying to do is just make sure that we're pointing out the differences in these certifications so you know really why you would use one or the other. All right, so this item here is new. The borrower has accurately verified payments for the eligible payroll and non-payroll costs for which the borrower is requesting forgiveness and has accurately calculated the forgiveness amount requested. This piece, well, really this first piece is included over here. The borrower has accurately, but this piece is now on us. If you do this, you are saying that you have accurately calculated the forgiveness amount requested. They're not asking you to show it, but they are asking you to make sure that you have done it. And this needs to be more of a more than just a back of the napkin calculation. This needs to be an actual form that you're keeping somewhere. Maybe you go ahead and you fill out one of these forms so you have the full documentation if you need it on the easy form. Or maybe you have a spreadsheet that you have put together that shows clearly and proves out that you have used all the money in the right way. For example, like if anybody took my self-employment forgiveness course, my webinar, there is an Excel spreadsheet in there that when you plug in all the numbers, it gives you all the answers to your what you would put into the 3508 EZ form. So it proves out the calculation for you really clearly. So if anybody wants that, I'll put a link to that in the notes below. And I've got a couple other calculation worksheets coming out for you guys too. But that is an option, and that would be something that you could keep along with your documentation to prove out that you're doing this calculation correctly. So this accuracy really lies on you as the person certifying and as the borrower asking for forgiveness. If you're under 50,000, you have to, basically say that you've done it correctly. Okay. So that's kind of the biggest thing that I wanted to point out to you guys, because there was a lot of inaccuracies in our applying for forgiveness, mostly because there was just a lack of knowledge. And so then again, this is asking you to be accurate, and you just need to know that if you're certifying to this, and make sure that you're keeping the right documentation and that you're doing it correctly, so that if you do get audited, because you could get audited, then you're ready and you can prove out your numbers, no problem. Okay. Really everything else down here is basically the same. All of these I have submitted to the lender through I understand. All of these are basically the same certification. So if you've read through this before, this is basically the same thing. And then these, like we said before, these safe harbor options are now a non-issue if you are putting in 3508S form. Okay, and then all you have to do is sign, and you are good to go on this application. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. If you have any more questions about the 3508S or EZ form, please go ahead and put them in the comments below. There are going to be a lot of questions still coming in about forgiveness applications. I would say that a lot of banks, since this information just came out, it might take a little while for your banks to be able to accept this in the simplified format. So be patient and just hold on and wait. The good thing is that now that you know what the requirements are, you can get all of your documentation prepared. And I know a lot of you have been really concerned about the FTE calculation and the wage reduction calculations. So now that we know that if you have a loan under $50,000, you don't have to worry about that anymore. This could be a big time saver for a lot of people. I did want to tell you guys that there were 3.5 million loans. I'm not talking about dollar amounts, I'm talking about the number of loans issued under the PPP program. Over 3.5 million loans in this bucket of $50,000 and less. So if you know somebody else who got a PPP loan that is under $50,000, or you think they might be under $50,000, you have a business owner, friends, please share this information with them, because this form is going to take a lot of stress and anxiety off of them. Okay. So please let me know if that's helpful. Please give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out, and definitely please share it with anybody that you think might not know this information, because we're trying to get it out to as many people as possible. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Remember, I'm on your side. I got your back. All right. Bye.